Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Michael Coll from UNC Greensboro. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, excited to have you. So we were just talking before we were recording. I used to live in Virginia and now live in Florida, so I drive up through North Carolina all the time, and we'll have to swing by and check out Greensboro here soon. But you know, talk to me a little bit about the way you recruit. So when are you usually starting to look at players? What year in high school are they when you're really starting to take a look?
Yeah, we're getting emails and attempts to communicate from kids even younger than sophomore year of high school. But sophomore year of high school is really the first true time that we really do consider them and try to evaluate them and make attempts to maybe watch them play live, uh, if we're allowed to under the NCAA rules. So, but we do hear from freshmen in high school, although that's not really something we're trying to get into at length that early.
No, that makes sense. And what where do you like to go in terms of, tournaments that are kind of always on your list to attend to check out players?
Yeah, well, this pandemic has changed everything. It's lots of schools, including mine, have had our operating budget drop significantly. So we cannot, we have not been able to go to as many tournaments over the last 2 years as we would like to go to. But the ones which are always on our calendar are the ones which are within pretty easy driving range. Those would be the Jefferson Cup in Virginia and the NCFC, which is North Carolina Football Club showcase in Raleigh, North Carolina. That used to be called the Castle Showcase. Those two are the two which are always on our recruiting calendar. But then on top of that, we try to get to the CCL events in Richmond, Virginia, and we try to get to one or two ECNL events plus one or two Girls Academy events each year. How we decide on which ECNL events and which Girls Academy events we go to really boils down to two things. Those two things are who have we pre-identified that is going to be playing there, and how much money do we have left in order to fly to those places and get hotels at those places.
Sure. No,
So
that makes
it changes all the time.
Yeah. This is a question I always find interesting, and especially as a former coach. When you go to an event, how much of it is spent watching players you have already identified or already talked to versus what I call fishing? Just checking out a game and seeing if there's anything there.
Fishing doesn't really happen much, but it does happen organically, meaning that you're at a game to watch someone else that you have heard from directly that seems to have a sincere interest in your program. But you may see somebody else on her team, or you may see somebody she's playing against, and you'll be like, oh, wow, this is a player I really like their style. So fishing doesn't happen a whole lot. The majority of people that we watch at events are people that have really reached out and shown a sincere interest in our school, has an idea of who we are, what we can provide as far as an experience. So most of I would say probably 90%, maybe to 95% of players that we see at events are people that we are there with a real mindset to really evaluate her.
Yeah, I think I figured that was the case, but I always love for parents and recruits to hear that, because I think they all get so concerned with you know you know exposure at a tournament, but really that doesn't mean a whole lot unless you've already started that conversation and someone's coming to look at you. Exactly. So
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
it's a very interesting thing. I've been doing this for 25 years, and so I've seen the dynamics and the evolution of sideline interactions and demeanor of parents and club contacts. And way back in the day when I first started, there was no such thing as brochures handed out. Then it got to the stage where brochures were handed out, and then it got to the stage just recently in the last 3-4 years where every kid on that team whose manager gave you a brochure gets informed that your school was there at that game, and that kid thinks that you were there to watch her. Maybe you were,
Right.
but there are 21 other players on the field. So, you know, it's been a very interesting evolution.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what about camps? How do they factor into your overall recruiting, whether they're your own ID camps or you or your staff at other camps?
Yeah, good question, because everybody has ID camps these days. College ID camps here at my school at UNC Greensboro, I do treat them as a real viable recruiting opportunity. We really do attempt to give very good feedback to the kids. We also keep the acceptance numbers quite low, between 35 and 50. I know some schools I've heard in the past will do as much as, well, over 100. And hey, good for them doing that. I don't really know how they evaluate players with that many, but we keep our numbers low because I do treat it as a real viable recruiting opportunity. Because, you know, some kids just don't play on a club team where you can see them play, or maybe because of their challenges economically, can't be at events you're going to be at. So if a kid can get to our ID clinic, I really want it to be a true recruiting opportunity where we're trying to evaluate her fit for our team. We do 2 ID clinics each year. Some schools will do 3 times that amount for 6 ID clinics a year, but we limit it to 2 because, like I said, it is a real viable recruiting opportunity. And all recruiting, in my opinion, is about putting yourself in, for lack of a better term, the shop window to college coaches. And I really want to make sure that our college ID clinics here at UNC Greensboro are real shop window opportunities for the kids to show us what they're all about.
That's great. Whether it's at a clinic or at a tournament where you're watching players, what is your kind of your checklist, your hierarchy of things that you're looking for in a player, whether it's on the field or off the field, that you know you want to make sure that you're ticking that box?
Well, I start with who's graduating off my team currently, because we want to replace the graduating seniors here. So the easy way for me to check off the boxes is who is going to be the same or better at that same position as the senior who's leaving here. Now, if there are 5 kids that I consider to be better than the player we're losing because she's graduating, yeah, there's a fundamental checklist that we're trying to find out based on positions. We're not looking for the finished product, but pretty close. They've got to be extremely well developed technically, tactically, and mentally. Mentally is the hardest one to measure, and I probably should have said that first, because it is the biggest one, because in college it's a different world. And yeah, the college life is there is a price to pay. The rewards do beat out the price, but college soccer is it is professional soccer at the D1 level, at least. So I do have a schematic, which I don't share with anyone, but I do have a schematic for every year what our roster looks like. So every event I go to, I know that at this event, let's say I'm going to the Jefferson Cup, which I referenced there a little earlier. If I'm going to the Jefferson Cup, I will know that in the year 2023, we need these 2 positions or these 3 positions. And that's mostly what my eyes are on. So again, if I find 5 kids who are very, very good, we're trying to quickly measure them against each other based on their fundamental greatness capacity.
Okay, makes sense. Last question I have on the recruiting side of things: how has the transfer portal kind of changed does it change any way you recruit? Are you doing recruiting, looking at players coming out of that, and just, you know, trying to give a sense? You know, I know everybody's like, oh, you know, this school might take 6 to 10 kids a year, but it's really not just other seniors you're being compared against, right?
Yeah, the transfer portal is very, very interesting. I am on the transfer portal daily, every day. The numbers today are about 2,000 players are on the transfer portal. So a lot of coaches will call it the Wild West. It's very hard to really define what they mean by that, but I think people get the gist. But I am on a daily. I do believe everybody deserves a second chance. The transfer portal, I have never taken anybody off the transfer portal yet. I've never had anybody go on the transfer portal yet from my school, which is a nice thing because transferring is difficult. But I am on it every day. I do have a little thing for names. I see people on the portal every day where it's no surprise to me that they're on the portal. My belief for kids who go on the majority of kids who go on the transfer portal is because of playing time at their current school. That's the real truthful opinion of mine. So yeah, we would take people off the portal. I think the biggest difficulty with anybody who's on the portal is the sheer speed which things have to happen. Because when you're in high school, it may take a whole year for you to develop a relationship with a school and then commit to a school. Well, if you're on the portal, it's not a year long. It's going to be a couple of weeks from the day it starts to the day it ends. So all the things you're trying to accomplish in two weeks, 3 weeks, or a month, that's extremely difficult. I'll never shy away from those challenges, but I can only imagine what the kids are going through on the portal, because you're trying to accomplish all those things which you did over a year in high school, and now you've got 3 weeks today. And that's really difficult for them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. You know, people see UNC and at first maybe they think Chapel Hill, but you're UNC Greensboro. You know, I can click around the website and learn a lot about the school, but you've been there a while. You know, give me a little bit of the inside scoop. What makes UNCG great? What makes UNCG different?
Well, I'll start with agreeing that we may be confused with UNC Chapel Hill. UNC Greensboro is one of the first three universities under the North Carolina university system. Chapel Hill, I believe, was the first university underneath the North Carolina system. NC State was the second school, and UNC Greensboro was the third university under the state system in North Carolina. Now, when this university was founded in 1891, we were not known as UNC Greensboro. We were a women's only college in 1891, known as the Normal School for Women in the state of North Carolina. So we're not unique being the only school in the world like that, but we are a minority of schools that was initially a women's only college. We didn't have men at our university until the 1950s. But yeah, we do get confused with UNC Chapel Hill. There are other North Carolina schools where I see this all the time in my emails. Well, people will confuse us with University of North Carolina, Charlotte, University of North Carolina, Wilmington, University of North Carolina, Asheville. So sometimes people can get us mixed up. We don't have anything in similarity beyond the fact that we all are run through the State House in Raleigh, but we're all completely unique, different Division I schools. We have different colors. We play against each other. We don't really share any resources at all. We don't have the same board of directors. It's not the same admission requirements to the schools. It doesn't cost the same. But what makes us unique as a school, we are a city school. Some people love that. Some people don't like it. We can walk to the downtown business district in Greensboro, which is a city of about 315,000 people. And we can walk there in about half a mile. Another thing which makes us different, I believe, is we are a mid-major school. We have one of the nicest soccer stadiums for a mid-major school in the entire country. And I can say that because I've worked for 25 years, both on the West Coast and the East Coast. I've seen probably 50% of the schools in the country. And when it comes to soccer stadiums, we have one of the nicest ones in the entire country. It's really beautiful. Soccer is a big sport here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Greensboro is, gets a lot of publicity for hosting the basketball tournament a lot, but the soccer side of things is just as high end, that's for sure. Well, in terms of academics, I think I love to help people understand how a Division I student athlete really is able to balance their school academic side of things and the athletic side of things, and what support the school offers to help students, make sure they are able to be successful on both sides.
Well, I think we're very similar to most Division I schools, both at the Power 5 level and the mid-major level, which we're currently in. But we have this very similar resources as far as academics and academic support. We've got a whole student athlete academic suite full of advisors, full of carousels for studying, laptops where they can check out, smart rooms where they can practice speeches in front of friends if he's got a speech comm class or something like that. Those advisors who are full-time members of staff who are in that suite, they can hook our players up with tutors in any tutable subject, which is free of charge. So we're very typical as far as the resources, which is applicable and open to our players on a daily basis. And I'm glad you asked that question, because our team grade point average is pretty high level. Our team grade point average over the last 3 semesters has gone anywhere from a 3.72 to a 3.68. And now the resources help the players get to that level. But the main reason why the players are at that level is because that's the foundation which they have lived their lives in. Meaning that I've always attempted to bring bright young women here who I expect will continue to be successful in the classroom setting. And there is a price to pay in college sports where you can't hit the snooze button on your phone. You've got to wake up early, get the 7 a.m. practice. But our team does wonderful in the classroom. And I hope that the new players coming in this fall will keep up those level of grades. They will certainly have enough resources to stay at that level.
That's fantastic. You mentioned hitting the snooze bar there for a 7 a.m. practice. Can you give me just real quick what a walk through what a typical week during the season might look like in terms of timing of practice and classes and meals and games and all that kind of stuff, just broadly speaking, of course?
Yeah, well, the NCAA has a mandate, as you know, you have to have 1 day off per week. We can choose that day. At our school here, we choose Monday to be our day off. Generally, we choose Monday to be our day off because we have games on Sundays. But a day off has to mean a true day off where there's no practice, no games, no lifting, no team meetings, no video, nothing. It's a day completely devoid of all sporting responsibilities. For us, that's Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are our main practice days. We practice at 7:30 to 9 a.m. on each of those days. We also will lift weights on Tuesdays and Thursdays immediately after practice. Friday is a game day. Generally, that is a 7 o'clock at night game. Saturday, we'll have a quick recovery, 45 to 1 hour long training session on a Saturday. Sunday, we play again, and then we're back to Monday. So that's a quick sort of synopsis of what the week looks like overall. And when they're not involved in sporting activity, they're in class, they're in lab, they're doing work experience, and some of them actually have real jobs for work outside of classes.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the soccer side of things. Do you have an ideal roster size that you try to hit each year?
Yes, 26 would be my ideal roster size. the school would like me to be at 28, which we have generally been at every year. But in an ideal world, my number would be 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about your staff? How many staff do you have? What role do they play in everything as well?
Yeah, I have two full-time assistant coaches. Stephanie is one of my assistant coaches, and Mitch is my other assistant coach. Now, what are their responsibilities? Everything. All three of us do everything, whether that's recruiting, whether that's budget, whether that's alumni communication, whether that's community engagement. We wear many different hats, and they're a wonderful staff. They work extremely hard. They are full-time committed members of staff here, and they're involved in every aspect of the program. We have very long meetings concerning practices, concerning recruiting. So yeah, I have the title of head coach and I have the main responsibilities of the program, but my staff, Stephanie and Mitch, they're involved in basically everything. The only thing they're not truly 100% involved in is the scholarship, the final scholarship decision on every kid, because that's what the head coach is responsible for, is that money investment. But beyond that, they certainly give their opinions on everything. I want their opinions on everything. They evaluate players. They evaluate every aspect of the program. And I'm very fortunate to have two very hardworking assistant coaches to help me through this process.
That's awesome. You mentioned the scholarship decisions, and again, I don't want to get into specifics, real broad level here, but everybody always wants to know, what does the scholarship situation at UNCG look like, both from an academic side and an athletic side, from grants to whatever. What would a typical player kind of be walking into when going to UNCG?
Well, the pandemic has changed a lot. It was a lot different 3 years ago. 3 years ago, UNC Greensboro, our team, used to be a fully funded program of 14 soccer scholarships. That has dropped dramatically, down to about 11 and a half. So it means that there's less money for us to identify and bring in new talent, and also less money to reward kids who are already here, who probably can be deserving of increases. Now it's going to come back again eventually to 14. Whether that's going to take another year or 2 years, I don't know. But I'm not complaining because, as you most likely know, a lot of schools have dropped sports. We didn't drop any sports here at UNCG. All 17 of our varsity sports are still fully intact, with full staffs, full practice facilities and everything. But we've all been downgraded with our scholarship offerings. I'm not exactly aware of how that has affected Central Campus and the admissions office and financial aid, but I gotta think it's adversely affected them as well. And just like us, they're going to come back on board to be fully where they were 2 years ago. What I can say is that UNC Greensboro has about 450 scholarships outside of sports scholarships and outside of academic scholarships. Now, these are very uniquely positioned scholarships when it comes to this only goes to a person from this state who's going to study this, or a person from this state who's an orphan. When you put all the different opportunities for financial aid on the same table here, we have about 450 in addition to sports scholarships and in addition to the general academic scholarships. People can find all 450 of these things, but it's going to take a whole week for them to find it. But they are out there. If someone's willing to really explore opportunities for financial aid and help, they're going to find lots of things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate that. and I'm sorry, I kind of took us away from soccer there for a second, but you're saying scholarships made me remember that question. So what about you in particular, your style of coaching, your team style of play? What do you like to see there on the field?
Well, let's start with the style of coaching. I'm quite a quiet individual. My sideline demeanor is pretty low key. Um, I don't get up and yell. I don't remonstrate with referees. I don't pace up and down the sideline. Um, I don't have a problem with coaches who do that, but people do verbalize to me all the time. They say, Michael, why are you so quiet on the sideline? Well, I've never told them truly, but I can tell you here, I'm a pretty quiet person on the sideline because I've never been around a coach who has been a prancer and a yeller in my entire life. I've never been exposed to that. So I've never learned that way to be like that. And then my second reason for being quite a quiet individual on the sideline is because I don't believe that players hear all the yelling and remonstrating on the side. I believe the players are focused on trying to give their best on the field. They probably don't even hear the whistle many times. So I believe they're totally focused on performing high levels on the field. So I want them to know that I trust them. They don't need to see me prancing up and down the sideline. They don't need to hear me yelling all the time, even though if their ears were open, they wouldn't hear me anyway. So I'm quite a quiet individual on the sideline. As far as playing style and how we want to play, I want to be entertained. So we do get a lot of good feedback from fan bases that we play a nice style, and that makes me smile. We like to play a nice style of indirect soccer, entertaining. All the players need to be comfortable with the ball at her feet. And yeah, entertain me. Entertain the people in the stands, please. Yeah, so that's I hope answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, we're talking here kind of at the end of your spring semester. So what does your typical off season look like?
You mean the summer months?
Well, spring and summer, the non-traditional season.
Yeah, non-traditional season is as we likely all know, we drop from 20 hours per week in the fall to 8 hours per week in the first half of the spring, then back to 20 hours in the second half of the spring. But the spring semester compared to the fall are two different worlds. We really take a step back from the amount of time we practice in the spring, mainly because of NCAA rules. We do dedicate quite a bit more time to strength training in the spring. And I would also say that's part of the reason why our team has such good grades, is because they know that we can take a step back from the competition and the challenges of all these games. You know, it's almost like in the blink of an eye, you from game to game to game. In the fall, you're just trying to keep your head above water, really. In the spring, we can focus on academics and strength training. And in the summer, our players do get a summer fitness packet and a summer preparation packet for preseason. Some of our players will play on a summer team, and most of them will not. I have worked at some bigger schools, and I've got lots of friends who work at other schools, and some schools make it a rule where their players have to play on a summer team. I don't, because I believe that summertime is for family, and summertime is to recuperate and recharge the batteries. So having said that, they do have their summer packets, so I do hope that they can follow it and do something productive. Maybe not daily, but at least every second day.
Yeah, no, I it makes a lot of sense. I think it's striking that balance is tough, right? Between making sure they're doing what they need to do for the fall, but making sure they have their own lives as well. No, I get that.
Is, yeah, it sure is.
Well, Coach, we covered a lot of ground here. I generally end these with the same question, which is just my catch-all here. What didn't we cover? What didn't you get the chance to talk about? anything you want to let us know about the school, the team, anything you want to reiterate about college soccer in general? Now's the time.
Yeah, good question. I am from Northern Ireland myself originally, but almost 30 years ago. And I don't recruit internationally. Now, when I was in college way back in the 1990s at Penn State University, I was one of a handful of non-American players on my school's roster. On the men's side today, back in the early 1990s when I was in college, the general big Division I team might have had 3 players from outside the USA on their team. Today on the men's side, it's more like 13 or 14 on their roster. So I think there might have been an assumption when I got into coaching that I would recruit very heavily internationally. I never have, I'm not currently, and I never will, because I want to be part of growing the game in this nation. Most of my players, well, 99% of my players in my career have been from the USA, and I want to be a positive stem on continuing to grow the game in this nation. So international recruiting is not really part of our lives here. Not to say that we're totally turned off on it, but I don't expect that it'll be a big part of who I am at the college level. Plus, when I know that international students cost so much money for a school to recruit and then fund when they're in college, that probably makes me step back even more. So we are a 99.9% domestic university when it comes to women's soccer players. The second thing I'll say about that is that UNC Greensboro is a beautiful school. Our campus is gorgeous. The city of Greensboro is a wonderful place to live. And when we can get people onto our campus, they pretty much wear their heart on their sleeves clearly right away. If anybody looks at my team's roster, they will see we have players on our team. We are in Greensboro, North Carolina. There are players on our team from Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Seattle, Denver, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona, Syracuse, New York, Toronto, Canada, Connecticut, all over Virginia, Miami, Florida. So when people come onto our campus, they pretty much fall in love with this place right away. That's a beautiful thing, because it tells us that if we can just get somebody on campus, they will love it. That's the only thing I can guarantee people when I recruit them, that is, if you come onto our campus, you will absolutely love it here.
That's great. Well, like I said, hopefully I'll get a chance to drive on through here during all my summer travels and take a look. But Coach, really appreciate the time. Thanks for the insights, and we wish you the best of luck here in the fall season.
Matt, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and you have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks.